correct? Hello, thank you for coming here. I'm Meadow Ellis. I'm very happy to be here. I'm quite gutted that I cannot do crowd surfing, but I will have to manage somehow. How to be a hardware criminal with spit and tape. Oh, I was told to stand here. I have to hold the stuff. First of all, who's Meadow and what is she doing here? So this, you probably cannot read it, but this is my business card. I'm basically, I don't like titles, so I'm taking a mickey on the titles that people put on their business cards. I would say I'm not a hacker. I don't call myself a hacker because I think hackers are people from movies from early 90s that were hacking stuff. I'm just like a hardware security engineer. I may have to stop calling myself engineer because there was some shitstorm on Twitter that the engineers may be protected. I don't have a degree in engineering. I'm just calling myself an engineer. Before coming here, you might have seen that recently I did a talk in Bsides London about the green padlock of doom. We don't have the green padlock anymore, but we still have the problem. Also did the talk earlier this year in Leeds about hardware hacking and how we have to, when we are hardware hackers, we have to go deeper into how those things work rather than just putting boxes together. And I also did a first hardware badge for Bsides London this year. If you go to meadow.city, you will see how it works. The blog post about the badge is coming. It's just taking me way too long. If you want to contact me, catch me on Twitter or go to Meadow City. There are instructions there how to talk to me. So what's going to happen today? I will speak about the problem that I'm trying to solve, that we are trying to solve. The criminals and skids, what's the difference? How to spot one and not be buried under the noise of the others. There may be a demo, if it works. It doesn't seem to be. Oh, it works. So there may be a demo in the middle, but the talk is not about hardware today. There may be a different talk about the hardware. The talk is more about what surrounds the hardware. And then, what can we do about it? How can we solve this problem? What can we do about hardware criminals? So, the problem that we have, and this is not only hardware, but predominantly software, is that there are a lot of skids, obviously, script kiddies out there, who are bombarding us with a lot of noise. They can be criminals because their activities can be made criminal, but because they are using known techniques, they should be easy to detect. And the problem is that because we know what they're using, we shouldn't be caring about this. We should be using automation to detect that and trying to find those who are a bit different. I'm saying this on every talk that I have opportunity to present. Hackers are not criminals. So this is this media perception that hackers breached database, breached some personal data. Criminals, not hackers, right? We are against criminals. We are not against hackers. Criminals are the problem of our industry. So the skids, and the thing is that you should be able to detect them and stop caring about them. In terms of in the networking world, for example, if you spin up a VM, open up port 80, look at the logs, like 5 seconds later, you will see a lot of hacking attempts, right? Hacking attempts on PHP MyAdmin. I mean, those are not hacking attempts. This is just millions of scanners out there who are just looking for holes. And if you are using PHP MyAdmin, I mean, that you shouldn't be, basically. But those are basic that we shouldn't be caring about. And the hardware, in the hardware space, the same problem exists, that people buy stuff that's online, like in terms of what I'm talking about today, that will be rubber ducky, right? it works, okay? In many companies it would work, this type of attack would work, but at the same time, because you know that it exists, you can buy a rubber ducky and try to find a way of detecting it, because it's out there, right? It's something that should be easy to detect because we know how it works. But there's also a different problem, and those are our enemies, right? The criminals will not go online and buy stuff and just use it. They will try to invent something different. And the problem here is that the criminal world of the offline criminal world is poking into the computer's information security, right? And they are using their methods of play, applying them to information security, which means, for example, that they will not go online with this. You probably cannot see it. This is a shot from Mr. Robot. What they did there, they were doing the stuff only in one place, right? They were talking about this, they were going on the forums, and criminals are doing the same. They didn't watch Mr. Robot, it's just how they work, how they operate. This is cultural, this is not something that they invented now. They will not go on Twitter and announce something or go on Twitter and ask about something. They will not even go to dark web forums and ask about something, because this is not how they operate. But we sometimes, more often than not, we rely on the information that we can find on the internet, and we can sometimes pretend that problem doesn't exist because we cannot find anything on the internet. There's a new attack. We look on the dark web. There's no trace of it, of anyone asking about this, right? That doesn't mean it doesn't exist. It just means that they are not searching for it. They are not posting about it. They are not selling it. They are just doing this for themselves. And this is like, just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. It's, I think, partially is like saying that most criminals are men. And the thing is that maybe women are not being caught, right? So, in my work, what I do day to day, I'm trying to be aware that there may be something out there that I don't know about, and just because no one else found it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. So this brings me slowly to what I did for the demo, and why I focus on USB. So USB doesn't have any security, and the problem with USB is that this is something that's been developed a very long time ago. And obviously when they started doing this, I mean, the first 07 version of USB was around, I think, 1992 or 3. This protocol, this method of communication wasn't designed with security in mind, because I would imagine in 1992, 1995, no one was thinking about this. We didn't have Arduinos, we didn't have Raspberry Pis, rubber duckies, all those things that we can now plug into the USB and they work. That wasn't the threat model back then, right? So it just didn't happen. Now we have USB 3. I mean, when I'm saying now, it's actually more than 10 years ago, but this USB 3 standard is now being more widespread. But the problem is that it doesn't matter from our perspective at all. Because what you can do, I don't know if there is a keyboard manufactured in 1999 that's using USB. There may be. I couldn't find the earliest, the first USB keyboard out there. But you can still use a keyboard from 1999, plug it into your USB 3 port, it's going to work just the same. And so a few weeks ago, USB 4 was officially released. And USB 4 has even more security included in them. I don't know if USB 4 will support legacy devices like USB 1.1 and 2.0. I hope it won't, but if it does, this is how much it's going to matter for us. Right? If the legacy protocols will be still supported in the new standards of USB, it won't matter that they are secure, because this backwards legacy compatibility will have to stay there. Now, obviously, this is important. It is important for us to work on new security improvements for USB, but as long as USB 2.0 exists, the problem will be there. Obviously, you can have security over USB, like you can have hardware tokens, right? So how hardware tokens are secure, they use this broken, maybe not broken, but insecure protocol to do security over it, right? But this requires working on both sides. So you have hardware, you have software, and there's one entity or group of entities that's controlling that. With the things like the keyboards, there's no way you can change that, because there's so much stuff out there that's using USB 2.0 and lower and older USB protocols. If you stop supporting them, people will just go to the streets, right? You can't stop supporting it, unfortunately. Now, USB is not something easy to exploit, right? Because USB, oh, you cannot see this, unfortunately. Anyway, I was hoping for a better resolution here. USB is not easy to exploit because you do need some specialized hardware, where at least you need something to analyze the protocol at very low level. I will show you later why this is the case. But everything happens very fast. So what you cannot see here, maybe I can zoom it actually. Hang on. Can I zoom it? Oh. Brilliant. Line number 97,000. This is high speed, this is full speed protocol of USB keyboard in this case. In the first half a second or less, you get 300,000 transactions or packets being exchanged between two devices. Now, if you are doing something crazy, like I was doing something crazy, there's no way, there's no software that can help you to analyze how it works. You have to go line by line and check what's happening, right? But at the same time, so in this case, for example, can I point it here? This is the exchange when the host, the PC is asking for data from the keyboard, asking what it is. The keyboard is responding that it's going to send 18 bytes. This is a device descriptor. This is compatible with USB 1.1. And my packet size is 8 bytes. There's tons of it, right? If you work with USB, you obviously will know this. If you don't work and first look at this, like, wow, how can I do this? In my case, because, again, I was doing something crazy or weird, I had to dump the data as it was being passed between the USB host and my keyboard, open a text file, and scroll and scroll and scroll and try to find where it is, what I'm looking for. Now, what I did, and I really have to point this out. Come on. Next. No? I really have to point out that what I did and what I will be doing with my device is that it's nothing new. I remember I was being asked, okay, it's going to crash. When I was submitting this talk to various conferences, I was getting responses that this is just another HID attack. This is just another USB attack. There's nothing new in it. But essentially, it doesn't matter if it works. If you can achieve your goal, if you can, I don't know, it's going to crash. If you can own a company using a simple device like a keyboard, it doesn't matter that this is just another attack. Now, the thing about my laptop is that it crashed. Okay? Sorry about that. We're back. What I did here is not new, and if you look at those are the things that came to my mind when I wanted to say what is something similar, what's similar out there that can be easily exploited. So we have bad USB has been out there for 6 years. Rubber Ducky started in maybe 2010, 2011. There's WHID injector by Luca from 2017 and OMG cable from MG. And even before that, I think there were some teensy projects based on plugging something into your USB port and pretending you're a keyboard, I think from 2004. So obviously, this is nothing new. The problem, or maybe not the problem, but the thing about those and many other solutions is that they're out there, right? Which means, again, you can buy it, get it from somewhere, find out how they work, and try to protect yourself against them, right? Those devices and similar shouldn't be your problem because you can automate the detection of them to some extent. Those two last items, the face dancer is the something that allows you to get into the middle of USB transactions. So you plug it in to your host, you plug it into your device like a keyboard, and you can inject packets, you can sniff packets. And I'm actually using something similar on my keyboard, similar devices. There will be also File Whisperer, which will allow you to do something similar again. So there are things out there that you can use right now to analyze how those devices work, and they're not expensive, honestly. So again, this shouldn't be a problem. So I think I'm coming to the demo part. See if it works. Looks like it works. Okay, so what I did for my keyboard, so this is just a normal standard issue corporate keyboard, right? There's nothing fancy about it. It just works. The thing about this keyboard is that it actually connects to, does it? It does. Let me change the screens. What it has inside, which I will show you in a moment, it has a Wi-Fi client. So this keyboard is now connected to my endpoint in Azure over Wi-Fi, actually tethering over my phone, going to Azure, going to Apache. There's a proxy pass, there's a periscript on the other end, and this is the result of the periscript. It's only pinging, so it's nothing fancy, but if I press a key on the keyboard, you will see those zeros. You probably cannot see, but if you could see, there's A here, so this is 000008. Those are keyboard scan codes that the USB device is sending from itself to the host. My device sits in between the keyboard and the host. So the keyboard still works because if I press something, obviously the keys will be sent, but it's also sending those keys out, which means I have achieved my goal because this is the remote control that was the remote keylogging that I was looking for, all right? And this is something original in the way that it's not out there. I will be nerding about this. I will probably be doing another talk about this. So it will be out there, but at the moment, if this was a criminal device, you probably wouldn't be able to detect it. Now, you wouldn't be able to detect it because, can I show you this? Okay, I cannot show you this because the USB analyzer on Windows is crashing when I'm trying to connect, but this device takes all the data from the keyboard and it's passing through to the host, which means it's also passing all the configuration data and identification data. So with USB, every USB identifies itself with the PID, VID strings, which define the manufacturer and the product. There are some strings describing what it is. And so whatever you use my device on, it will just take those strings and pass it through. So if you look and try to see what's connected to your your endpoint, to your host, you will just see a normal keyboard, right? So this is just passing data back and forth. But that wouldn't be enough. So I went further, and I can do it. So wide general, this is my endpoint in Azure. What I can do, I can send the keystrokes back to the keyboard. That will then be pressed on the host. So what I will do now, I will do. So I have sent a string through my Azure endpoint, and this string, which is actually just a GET request, was sent back to the keyboard, and keyboard pressed, if you can see it, hello Bsides waves. All right? That's probably what's in that file. What are those keystrokes? Hello. So what I'm doing here, I'm just sending the keyboard scan codes back to the keyboard. Press Shift, release, Shift and H, release, and so on and so forth. So now, with my unique original keyboard, I have two-way communication. And obviously, pressing keys and saying hello wouldn't be that much of that funny. But as you probably know, if you can press keys, you can do anything. So let me see if this works. It didn't. But you probably know what I was going to do. It would pop up Windows Calculator, because that's what everyone is doing. So basically what this script was supposed to be doing, let me try this again. Why didn't you work? Because there was probably a typo. Oh, good. Thank you. So again, with my standard looking keyboard, I have two-way communication between this device and somewhere out. Right? So because I can pop a calculator, which is basically pressing Windows R, typing CALC, and pressing Enter. So 6 keystrokes. Obviously, I can upload any payload I want. All right? So I'm happy that it worked. I wasn't expecting that. So now I can go back and tell you about what's inside. If I can swap my screens again. Present. Okay. So what what criminals are doing, they are using some ingenuity, some dexterity, I would say. They're using hard tools to cut PCBs, for example, because they don't fit into the keyboard. Right? This is not something that you would see normal see. No, you see this as something that's being recommended, like when you're designing or creating something from hardware. No one tells you to cut PCB in half, right? Using Dremel. That's not standard, but obviously, if it works, if it achieves the goal, that's what they will do. All right? So there was 4 components, some wires, some Dremel work. Azure, you're going to Let's Encrypt, obviously, because the communication is going over HTTPS, and everyone is using Let's Encrypt, including criminals, Apache and Perl, and some spit and some tape. There wasn't actually any spit and tape. There was some hot glue. So I cut those two PCBs on the left and the right hand side to fit them into this hole. Now, when I started this, that was kind of a challenge for me. When I started doing this, when I got accepted for this conference, I didn't know if it's going to fit in there. I just assumed that it would fit in there because when I opened the keyboard, I saw like, there's so much room there. Like, there has to be a way. So I wasn't sure it's going to work. That's why I started cutting things. I started filing things, trying to fit them better. And if you see what I did to Arduino here, so this is the Arduino bit that's on top there. I had to cut it a bit here because it was a bit too wide to fit in that space. Again, this is not something that you would expect someone would be doing to an Arduino. Like, why are you cutting your Arduino? Because I have to fit it in there, right? Now, so that's the problem. And this thing works, and now, what can we do about this? Or can we do anything about this, actually? If you have an estate of 20,000 endpoints, each of them has a keyboard, you have weak physical security, because we all do, right? Let's not kid ourselves. Physical security is always a problem. How do you find this one amongst your 20,000? So there are some ways you could try to detect that. First of them is checking for PID, VID. This is what I said a moment ago, that my keyboard, my device is passing all the data from the keyboard to the USB and back. So obviously no, not in this case, but not in many cases as well, because those strings are easily changeable. Like even those devices that I talked about, that other devices from my keyboard, you can change the PID and VID and all the strings to whatever you want. So detecting anything based on that, not going to work. You can measure current, right? So USB, the device is drawing some current, and allegedly, not allegedly, but you can measure current, right? But what good would that do? First of all, there's this misconception that every USB machine is measuring current by itself, because if you go to Windows or any other operating system and look at the USB device, it will say, for example, that it's drawing 100 milliamps. That is not true, because what's actually happening, part of the setup of the USB device, is that the host is asking how much current are you going to draw, and the device is responding 100 milliamps. So it's a lie. It's a text. It's just a text exchange between two devices. So you cannot get current straight from the machine. You can measure the current, but also I know that you can measure the current, right? This case, this is a POC, so this is drawing quite a lot of current. That's why I had to have a powered hub, because Surface doesn't provide enough current in the USB, which other devices do, but this one doesn't. I could make it so that it would be drawing the same amount of current as a normal keyboard, right? And again, if you have 20,000 keyboards in your estate, are you going to measure all of them? Like, no, You won't. You can analyze the current. Now, this is something I cannot overcome. So analyzing the current means measuring the current in a very high resolution. So every device is drawing current not in a flat line, sort of, but it changes with what the device is doing, right? This is part of the chip whisperer stuff, that they are analyzing the current going into the device and side channel attacking the hardware crypto on devices by measuring current very accurately and trying to find out what the device is doing by looking at the current. So in this case, I wouldn't be able to compete with that because the pattern will be completely different from the normal keyboard. And there's no way I can jump over this. But again, 20,000 keyboards. You can detect one, but you won't be able to detect all of them. You won't be able to check if all of them are clean or one of them is malicious. So this device connects over Wi-Fi. Normally, if I was to implement that, I would try to use local Wi-Fi because it's just easier. But even if it is connected to a corporate Wi-Fi, it is over HTTPS. That's not a problem because this can be downgraded and analyzed. It's only using GET requests. It's quite hard to detect it because it's odd, right? You will find later, like in a few months, how it works exactly, but at this point, you don't know what to look for. It just looks like a normal GET request. If you know that there's something malicious in your network that will be doing this, you can try to find it. But if you have 20,000 endpoints and a lot of stuff is happening in your SOC, it's very hard to find it. But aside from that, this is now connected to my phone, right? So if I manage to swap a keyboard in your company, it means I had someone who was able to do this, obviously, right? But what I can do, if there are, for example, a cleaner who's coming every now and then, I can give them this phone. They will be going about their business and not even touching the keyboard. And the keyboard, when it detects there's a Wi-Fi to connect, they will just connect, dump the data, and then just disconnect. Good luck trying to find this connection happening. You can obviously measure Wi-Fi, you can see there's an odd device, but you have to know that there is something there to look for. And disabling USB 2. Now, this is really funny because it's true. If you can disable USB 2, it's going to work. Because you will eliminate all those problems with rubber duckies, with those keyboards. But you cannot disable USB 2 because your company relies on USB 2 like every other company relies on USB 2. There are so many devices out there still using USB 2 and lower that realistically you cannot do this. If you can, fine. But I wager you won't be able to. But the problem is even bigger because we like to think that we are this is only happening in our own bubble, information security, but the things like eavesdropping, like bugs, not software bugs, but listening devices, they were happening way before we were born. And if someone is able to swap a keyboard, they don't have to do a keylogger in there. They can put up a bug in there, all right? And this leads to certain paranoia that you shouldn't be falling into because you cannot protect yourself against those things. Like if someone manages to go into your company and do stuff like this, they can do many other things. And building a bigger, taller wall to protect yourself against this is just not going to work. So the question is, are we screwed? I don't like when the talk is presenting problems and saying, we are all screwed, now let's go home and do something else. I like to present a solution. So the question, are we screwed? I don't think we are. The problem is here. We cannot realistically prevent this from happening, but we can do something around this. to try to minimize the effect of this. First of all, attribution is important. Like, I like to sometimes take a mickey at various attribution attempts because someone is saying, for example, they have detected a new actor, APT, and they clearly say what did they do to find out that this attack or whatever was attributed to this APT. If I'm an attacker, I see what you did there, right? So, in case of those devices like this, the first thing I would do, I would try to find out what other people are doing to attribute to someone. But at the same time, this is important because we want this to stop. We are not law enforcement, at least not every one of us. We have to defend ourselves somehow. We have to do the work. If we find something like this, we have to try to find out where it came from, what it did, and then forward this to NCAC, for example, right? This is their job. This is what they should be doing. We should be helping them. So I think it is very important that we not only find those devices, but help law enforcement to try to catch the people who are doing this, because eventually this is what we want to happen. We want those attacks to stop. And now that brings me to my to the key point of my talk, what I wanted to speak about, and I wanted to have a good reason to talk about this. How do you prevent this keyboard from destroying your company? Everyone knows about this. I hope everyone knows about this. But think about this. This will store and send out all keystrokes, right? So if you're not using password manager, even if you are using password manager, there's always some password, passphrase that you have to remember. If you have multi-factor, it doesn't matter, right? It's quite rude to say, let them seek other targets, but we've been talking about multi-factor for a very, very long time, and there are still, obviously, it's not that easy. You cannot just go into a company and say, like, from tomorrow, multi-factor, right? It takes time. But this is where we have to go. This will catch all passphrases, but it won't matter, right? If they know that your company is using multi-factor even for domain passwords, they will not even try to do this, because why? Now, obviously, the one side of your communication, so typing emails, your web searches, everything else, will get out. But you can't do much about this. But there's also the other part to the solution of this problem, because you can, as you've seen, you can remotely send a payload to the machine and do something about this, do something with it, which means you can basically own the network, right? Your network is my network, and so what? So if you don't know about Zero Trust and Beyond Corp, you really should, because I obviously don't have time to talk in great detail about how it works, but what it does in principle is that there's no firewall as such. Obviously there is a firewall, but not in the way that we used to think for 20 years or more. Being on the network doesn't give you anything, because you have to authenticate yourself with everything else. Which means you don't have this thing about corporate network that allows you to go to places, and you have to VPN from outside to your corporate network, and then when you are in your corporate network, then you can access other stuff. There's no such thing as corporate network anymore, and Starbucks is your corporate network. Because it doesn't matter anymore where you are, you still have to authenticate yourself. Which means, again, if I can own a network using this keyboard, because I could also make it so that it will actually serve a network connection over USB to the host, so I can get onto the network. Obviously, the machine is still on, but only that machine, right? It has been, all the passphrases are gone, but it doesn't matter, because you still have to use the second factor to authenticate yourself, right? So it's kind of, I suppose it's kind of weird to talk about multi-factor and zero trust when I'm talking about USB attacks, but actually I think this is the point. this device in such an environment is completely useless. Again, you will own that one machine is connected to. But so what? That's not giving you anything. So please do search. If you don't know about it, please do search about Zero Trust. Please do search about Beyond Code by Google. They published their architecture. They have released how they are doing this, and it's actually pretty neat. The end is near. The end of my talk is near. So it's time to wake up. And if you fell asleep, I will try to wrap up what I said today and the important things. Good criminals don't talk. They are not online. They are not on Twitter. I mean, they are on Twitter, but good criminals don't talk about what they do at work. And if you can't find anything about an attack, about a method, it doesn't mean that no one is doing that. They are just not talking about it. USB 2.0 and lower, they are a mess, but they are here to stay, and we have to live with that. We cannot disable it. We cannot remove it from our environments. We just have to manage it somehow. For example, Zero Trust and multi-factor. You have to filter out skids. You have to get rid of rubber ducky owning your company. Because, again, repeating myself, you should be able to detect it pretty easily. There's always a way in, and this is, again, an argument against building bigger, taller walls or greater firewalls. There will always be a way of getting the data out. Like, you might have heard, like, some people were doing experiments of blinking the LEDs on routers to exfil the data. But why not, right? If you only need one domain admin password, and if it's not admin, it's something else, your company name in 2019, you can blink that in Morse code using one of the LEDs somewhere, right? If you really want to. So how do you stop this? Obviously you, I don't know, block the windows or something like that, but there will be another way. You cannot stop this. You have to agree that this exists and move beyond that, all right? Stop relying on security of your passwords and stop relying on security of your network. Don't buy snake oil. Like, many vendors will say, especially on EDR, on endpoint detection and response market, they will say that they will protect your endpoints against USB attacks. What they actually mean is that they will protect your endpoints against USB drives attacks and nothing else. Because in many people, when they say USB, they mean USB drive, because they are not kind of aware that the keyboard is also USB, right? And what vendors are doing, not all of them, but most of them, they are just blocking USB flash drives. And that doesn't solve this. This still works. And we need more of devices like this. That's why I went and spent 6 weeks of hard work trying to make it happen, even though it's just another HID attack. Because we need more of those devices, and we need to keep putting the pressure on vendors and on operating system manufacturers. I don't know who, honestly, but there are some other people who should be doing this. If we keep the pressure and show that the problem really, really exists, there is a chance that it will change finally, and the problem will go away. Any questions, please?
I think you've baffled everybody.
Oh. Oh, I know you.
I'm not paying you back. So, have you lost the trust of everyone in your office?
Didn't hear that. That's the thing I forgot to talk about paranoia, about getting into this state of mind that you will have to look at every keyboard in your office, every cable, every underside of your table, whatever. You can't. This is not going to happen because, especially with the miniature devices that you can do, you can create nowadays, like listening devices. It can be so small, it can be hidden absolutely anywhere. There's no point in trying to find them because you will not find them. So answering your question to some extent, I don't. I'm just accepting the risk. Like, if someone really wants to, they will bring me to my home and swap my keyboard. I'm not checking my keyboard every time I go back home because this is just ridiculous, right? So, yeah.
No? No takers? Well, thank you, Meadow.
Thank you very much.